Okay, folks, welcome to our 2023 forum. I am going to turn the floor over to Lori Montfelder, who is our chair. Lori.
Yay, Lori.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. So nice to see everyone. And I'm going to put a plug in for the trade show later today out at Calippi. Hopefully I will see everybody in person there. That's my little plug for later today. But first thing first, at our forum meeting, I'd like to welcome Angel Moore, who is the Chief Operating Officer for the Alameda County Fair. Her teams include the Alameda County Fair's award-winning event sales, marketing, communication, sponsorship, parking, safety, and security and event operations. She's most proud of the fair's work with the community during the pandemic and the fair team who works tirelessly to create lifetime memories for generations of families in Alameda County. Under Angel's leadership, the Alameda County Fair was chosen by Facebook to take part in the Small Medium Business Council with 11 businesses from across the nation. Angel is a lifelong resident of Alameda County and lives in Pleasanton with her husband, Todd, and they've raised their 3 sons in town. And just a separate little plug for the fair. My husband and I have participated in several years of the art shows there. And so we've always enjoyed all the different facets. You know, sometimes people think of just the rides or something else, but there's so many different facets to the fair for people to take advantage of. So I want to welcome Angel and turn the floor over to her.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And you're right. People often think of, like, you know, the corn dogs, horse racing. Corn dogs. That's what I think of. I've got down the days for corn dogs. The wine garden. Yes, the wine. People love the wine garden. But there's so many different pieces to it, and I love actually going in and seeing all of the kids' education. So all of this, a lot of the schools in the county, teachers will work with kids on art projects, and those art projects will be entered in the fair. So it's super fun to see kids. It's super fun to see kids with their families, like searching for their art throughout the building, or seeing somebody who entered a beautiful photo or beautiful piece of art. So I do love that. And I do believe that there's truly something for everyone at the fair. So thank you so much for having me. Are you ready to get started?
When you're ready.
I am ready. So basically today what we're going to do is we're just going to go over a quick overview of the past, present, and then kind of the direction that we're going in the future, and talking about some of the construction projects that we currently have going on or will be happening here in the near future. So we're learning how to quickly do events at the same time that we're doing construction projects and keeping it a great experience for everyone who's coming and visiting the property. So who are we? Who is the Alameda County Agricultural Fair Association? And I feel like, Sean, you might be a little bit bored in this meeting because you've seen most of this presentation recently. So the Alameda County Fair, or the Alameda County Agricultural Fair Association, is a private 501c3 nonprofit that receives no tax support. So we are completely self-supporting. We manage, so the nonprofit manages the 267-acre property on behalf of Alameda County. So we are not county employees, we are a nonprofit, and our mission is to invest the money that is earned at the fair and through with events throughout the year back into the property so that we can preserve it for generations. We are the home of the oldest 1-mile racetrack in America. So we are celebrating this year our 165th year at that with the racetrack in operation. So there'll be more to come and some fun things happening at the racetrack this year. And then for the good of this group and everybody, the first fair was held in 1912. So we've only had a couple of times where the fair was canceled, the pandemic being one of them. There were some other times, I think in World War II, like that, yes, that the fair was also put on pause. Bob knows.
Bob was there.
Bob-
World War I, maybe. Bob was there.
It is, yeah, tough crowd. The fair board, so we work with a 21-member fair board. You will see that we have 20 members currently on our board. Our board members serve at 12 years in total. They get re-elected or reappointed every 4 years. So 11 of our 11 board members are elected by their peers. So they submit an application and then our board goes through the applications and then they, you know, we may need somebody that used to be in construction. We may need accountants or we may need attorneys on our board so that they can advise us in their areas of expertise. So we do fill in gaps. We may need IT or we may need financial institutions. So that is
Or a wine grower. Heather,
Wine grower.
Is that awesome? Is that
Actually
awesome?
new to
I'm
our
so
board.
excited to see her picture. It's fantastic.
Yeah, she's been a great board member so far. So 11 are elected, 10 are appointed by the 5 Alameda County Board of Supervisors. And so they are, so that's the blend of the current board. We have, I think in the next year, 3 to 4 rolling off of their 12-year term. So then we will be in search for 3 to 4 new board members, and that search traditionally happens post-fair. So you will see local ads coming out probably August, September time. And our board members are from all over Alameda County. So we kind of put together a map of where our board members are from. We kind of look at the population of certain cities throughout the county so that we make sure there's representation of the entire Alameda County on the board. So we work really hard to do that.
Looks pretty heavy old white males.
We're, they're looking to diversify all ways.
We've been
Yeah.
bringing more females in. That was the first start.
Yeah, this year we got, in this last round of elections, the 3 women on the bottom row on the right, they were elected in this
Good.
year. Yes, sir. One of the projects that we work on is the mission of the Alameda County Fair, or the Agricultural Association, is to assure the long-term viability of the Alameda County Fairgrounds. We talked about that. Present an exceptional annual fair that celebrates the heritage and diversity of the county and provide year-round opportunities for facility usage. So we really work hard to be able to put on an exceptional fair. We're one of the top fairs in Northern California. We believe we're the top fair in Northern California. And then we also like to provide a wide variety of events that really speak to our community, right? We know that this is our town and we love Pleasanton, but we want to be able to offer something for the entire county on property. The fair team back in 2019, we rolled it out in 2020 of January, but our team came together and created our vision and our values. So the mission is really our board's statement. The vision and the values, we went to all of our employees and we did employee surveys and we worked with a consultant who then came back and helped us drill down what our vision and our values were as an organization. And just this year, it was adopted by our board. So they really view that as their vision and their values as well. So it helps us determine hiring. It helps us determine if we are going to bring in a new event, like how does that tie into who we are as an organization? So we are really living our values, and we started that in 2020. And that, I mean, we ask employees when we are in the job interview process, like what core value resonates with you? And so we really, and that was a great project. It's actually one of the projects I'm most proud of that we worked on. Okay, let's see, can I see this? Okay, so, let's see. There, thank you so much. How do we operate? So we have an annual operating budget of about 27 million in income. So that comes in, and this is in order. Our sources of income, number one is the annual fair. So we work really hard to put on an exceptional fair that drives the community. And that's our number one reason we're here. So we're glad that that's the number one way that we generate revenue. Number two is our year-round event program. So pre-pandemic, we were at almost 300 events. Now we're at about 160 events. And it sounds like such a drastic scale back. We lost a lot. But what actually happened for us is the events that we're bringing in may be larger, or they may not be larger, but they may take over more buildings. They may be more of these runs, like these runs are really popular. And so we're doing less events, but we're generating the same, if not more income. It's great for our teams because we could, in the past, do 10 weekend events in one weekend. Well, you imagine you have a certain amount of employees and you're just they're driving all the time. So when we really took a look at that and said, okay, where should we focus our time and energy? How do we impact the community in the largest way and also be able to sustain our employees? This model has really worked for us. So we're hoping to continue in the future. RV camping is our third highest revenue generator. So we have 2 RV parks on the property. RV parks are really synergistic with fairgrounds because when you open up a fair and you have carnivals roll in, you have food vendors roll in, all these small businesses from around California and beyond, they're just hitting. Fair 1 starts in June and then they're rolling through. They probably start in early February and they're just on the road for maybe 10 months a year. And so RV parks, if they can just come straight to our venue, they can park in our RV park, stay there for 20 days, pack up and move on. Same with a lot of the consumer shows that come in. A lot of their vendors are also on the road or on a certain circuit all year long. So the RV park is very synergistic. We also see a lot of travelers in the summer, European travelers that come through. We also, with a bunch of construction projects that are happening in the region, we see a lot of construction workers that come through and they'll stay with us for a short time until their project is over and then they'll move on. So that one's huge for us, and that's actually part of our investment when we start looking at the future where we're building upon. And then horse racing, although that has been on the decline, that is still in our top 4 revenue generators. For the association.
On the RV camping, is there a time limit on how long someone can stay?
Great question. Yes, there is. So what we do, because we don't allow anyone to establish a residency on our property.
Right.
And so, so you can stay 21 days. At 21 days, you either can leave for 24 hours and come back to the space that you wanted, or you have to move your your location every 21 days. It is a hassle for people. But with some consulting with our legal counsel, they said that's the best way that you can have your RV park, especially for construction teams coming in, right? You come in, you got to move every 21 days, and then that doesn't allow you to establish residency.
Okay. Are there semi-permanent people that just continue to stay there, but just keep moving around?
That's a really good question. We have had that in the past, but typically what happens is that they're there for our traveling nurses. They might be there for 3 months and then they leave. And then they might be cycled back in another 3 to 4 months, and then they come and then they leave.
Angel, is there a typical cost for 21 days?
So we charge by the night. And so it's typically somewhere around, we have a range, right? So you can have a 30 amp, you can have a 50 amp, there's RVers have pull throughs. So it might range anywhere from like $40 to $60 a night, depending on where you are, what your needs are. Our year-round property usage, this is just what we have on the grounds in terms of building spaces, We have 10 buildings. So in those 10 buildings, we host community events, we host consumer trades shows, corporate meetings, weddings, picnics, product rollouts. We host probably picnics in the range of about 300 up to very large corporate picnics that could be 15,000. And so we do, that is a picnic. And so one of the great things about our property is we have a master concessionaire on site. And so your event is start to finish with us. You come in, you can do tri-tip, you can do prime rib, you can do pizza. I mean, we run the full gamut in terms of catering on property. We have an equestrian center. So for many years, we had year-round training at the racetrack for thoroughbreds. So in 2017, that year-round training went over to Golden Gate Fields. And for the first time, we didn't have horses in our barns year-round. What happened at that point is we decided, you know what, we have this beautiful facility. We really cleaned it up and invested in our barn area at the track. And then we built 3 equestrian arenas for equestrian events. So we are working on building our, they call them like hunter jumper shows, gymkhana shows. So we actually have a show this weekend coming in. We talked about RV parks. We also have 2 storage facilities. So if you wanted to store your boat or your RV, we have 2 locked storage facilities on property. In 2019, I believe, the Marissa Hunt Youth Barn was built. That was built by Alameda County on property. And what that youth barn is for is it is for the youth who raise animals to show in 4-H. And so say you live in this neighborhood, but you want to raise an animal, show it at the fair and sell it, but you can't keep a pig in your backyard here. So it's true, right, Bob? It's very true. So you can keep your animal at the fairgrounds. You would come and feed it every day. You would take care of it. So we provide that facility for kids in the community.
Where is that?
That is actually, do you know where the off-track betting is, where the driving range is?
Yeah.
You came in that gate and you drove straight down towards the entrance to the fair. It's kind of tucked in the back. And so the kids never have to come into the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
It's kind of just tucked away in the back. And so our team maintains it. There's a classroom in there for education purposes. The animals come in, I think in February or March, and they'll stay until fair.
Okay.
It's really fun to watch. And it's when you're having a stressful day, you go out there and you hang out with the animals. It's nice. It's also served when we had some fires as a location for animals as well.
We saw that salon.
Yes. We lease property to Jetter Golf. And so that's our 9-hole golf course in the middle of the racetrack, and then the driving range that is over on Valley Avenue. So that is a leased piece of property. And that was that a 20 or a 30-year lease, Bob? Do you remember? 30-year lease. And I think we have about 14 years left on that lease. Yeah. And then we have our off-track betting facility, which I hear has really fun bingo. If you like bingo, I've been to bingo. It is actually fun. So off-track betting facility is simulcast wagering. So we have live horse racing during the annual fair, but the rest of the year you can go to the off-track betting and you can bet on races around the country. And then we also host, larger events when it's the Kentucky Derby or the Belmont Stakes, Preakness, Breeders' Cup. This is an overview of the property. It just kind of gives you an idea of the breadth and the scope of the property. It's quite, so if you go, Can I drive for a second? So right here is the youth barn.
Oh, okay.
So this is the youth barn here. We can park about 8,000 to 10,000 cars on property. Certain times of year, like if it's a very large day at the fair, or we can see a very large weekend coming, we will work with our golf partner, and we've sometimes rented out this location and parked vehicles this far out on property.
Angel, how many acres is it?
267.
Angel, how about the parking rides for shuttle or for commuters?
Oh, you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
So right over here is our off-track bedding facility. In 2008, that was the only, I worked at the fairgrounds for 17 years. We've laid off employees twice. Obviously, 2020 was one, and that was a tough one. 2008 was another really tough year for us that we had to lay off employees. So at that point, we were trying to figure out where were we gonna generate revenue. So that's, at that point is when we really, really invested and grew RV park. And here we started engaging in commuter parking. So we work with some high-tech companies in Silicon Valley. Their employees come here and park. Now we've even gotten into parking this space because so obviously pandemic, there was no vehicles around. It's really picked up, especially Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on property. And so you'll see vehicles, I mean, parked all around here, through here. We save a few, we save probably a couple hundred parking spaces here for horse racing. And then now they're starting to fill in this space as well. We noticed recently that Ace Train, they started picking up also, not as much as the commuter lots, but Ace Train, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday has also started to fill over.
And those companies lease spaces or a number of spaces or pay per space?
They
or-
pay per space, and so we do car counts.
Okay.
So on a monthly basis, we do car counts and they pay per vehicle.
Okay.
So they're not paying like what you would pay when you come to the fair or an event,
Right,
but they are paying per space. In addition to that, we're all about using our land that is not used to generate revenue. So we have cell towers on property. We have several cell towers on properties, and we work with, the big names, the T-Mobiles, the
Yeah.
AT&Ts. And then we also work with like some local construction companies, and they lease space from us as well. So like Terry's Tree Service, and we have some companies like that who store their work vehicles on grounds.
Super
And then they-
entrepreneurial. I'm always impressed with that piece of it and Jerome's piece of that.
Yeah.
Kind of that is constantly looking for other ways to create revenue at this location to keep it running. Yeah. Rocket.
Absolutely, that's really, I mean, I would say when Jerome came, he has that entrepreneurial spirit, and we now call ourselves intrapreneurs, because we're always like, we work for a company, but we're always trying to drive and figure out what's next for us, right?
Yeah.
What's next for us, what's next for the community, and what's the future of this property? All right, you can drive again. So just an example of some of the types of events we do. The Good Guys Car Show, we used to do 4 shows a year. Good Guys pulled back some of their shows across the country. So they used to do 26 shows. I believe they're down to like 18 shows across the nation. One of the shows they cut was our June show. So they do March now, they'll do August, and they'll also do November. Another example is just of the food that we're able to do with our on-site catering company. We do the largest Scottish games in North America, which has the best meat pie, which is like a pot pie, but more delicious. If you've ever been, wait in the long line or get there super early and buy lots of them, they freeze very well. We do cultural events. So we do, which is called un gran jaripeo, which is a rodeo and dance event. So we host about 2 of those a year. Want to go forward. We also are an Office of Emergency Services. So I'm sure during 2020, 2021, you saw how we really activated being able to participate. We were able to quickly activate a CAL FIRE location when the fires happened in Livermore. CAL FIRE came in, I think, on a Sunday night, and by the time most of us had come back to work on Monday, they had activated the property. I mean, they do an amazing job at setup and being able to build like their compound, and they are just one of the most well-run organizations I've ever seen. And then when the fires were over and they packed up, literally next day, gone.
Yeah.
And so the nice thing that they told us they really liked about our property is oftentimes they'll go to a fairgrounds and they don't have the infrastructure that we have. But through time, when the pandemic happened, many fairgrounds just shut down. They just shut down. They had to lock the doors and go home. We knew at some point that we could be activated, so we kept on a skeleton crew, but we kept on our grounds crews, right? We wanted to make sure when things like this happened, our property was in a state that it could just be fully functioning in no time. In our main parking lot where our carnival is at fair, we have water, sewer, and power. So we could hook up like 100 RVs in that parking lot in no time. We have the RV parks. We have, I mean, you probably would never see them, but we have shower facilities inside the fairgrounds. So we work really hard to maintain the property so that when we need to activate, we can.
Drive-through COVID shots. too.
Right there. I mean, the rainbow is like perfect. Yeah, drive through COVID. The food, I mean, we were able to have that open for a year, and it was phenomenal to watch people coming through. 2 days a week they were operating. The mass vaccines were operating, I think at one point 6 to 7 days a week. We were also doing the COVID testing, which I would have friends call me, and they would say to me, "Can you get me in for the COVID test?" And I'm like, "I can't get you in. It's not our operation, and I can't like jump you in the line to the very front." My own kids were going out there at like 4 a.m. sometimes. I'm like, "You gotta get there early. You gotta get there at 4." They would be like, "We're still in the parking lot." Yeah, and this is just, you know, this back to the COVID testing. This was the line some days getting into the COVID testing. And so it would be interesting to watch our teams. We learned a lot, you know, you think, you know, and so we're used to getting cars in and parking them. We're not used to getting cars in, queuing them in a line. So on day one, we might have it parked all the way out, but by day 2, we were weaving them in and out, adding cones, making sure that we were just doing it as efficient as possible and we could get as many people in to be tested as possible. Okay, so let's talk, any questions on that?
I have a revenue question this, one of the secondary benefits is the amount of events that you bring in. Is there any way to quantify what the overflow, the restaurants, the PDA, the rest, you know, how that, do you have an estimate on what you think that, how you contribute, all the other ways that you contribute in a financial way to the city?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the last study that we had done said, and this was like 2015, said that on an annual basis, the overflow from the Alameda County Fair, hotels, restaurants, shopping, dining, was about $30 million a year. That's in keeping people employed, right? Putting hotel rooms, restaurants, dining, shopping, small businesses, tax revenue. And so that's something we're really, really proud of because we're a small business ourselves. And so the fact that we can keep other small businesses, which is 99% of the nation is a small business, that we can support that is incredible to me personally, but I know that means a lot to our team.
Our community.
Our community, right, our community. Any other questions though? That was a good one. Feels like my ringer.
We all know it's Bob, he's your favorite.
We know, it's true.
Keep my mouth shut.
Now, at one point you guys were talking about a hotel. Is that still on the drawing board?
The hotel is now located on Johnson Drive near the Costco. So we would entertain that again in the future, but one,
Right by my office, exactly, that
Yeah.
5-story building blocking
Bill
all the
argued
views.
for moving it over there.
yeah, that was, it's built,
Just
it's built.
competition.
No, once the pandemic came, that deal kind of went away from us.
Okay.
There were some other projects in the works that have also gone away, which we'll talk about, but may potentially be swinging back to us. But at this point, we think it's a great synergy for us. It's very much like the RV park. It's very much like the RV park. It makes a lot of sense for us, but I think it's just further down the road. We didn't
That would also
entertain it.
generate more room night revenue for us here in the city.
Absolutely.
Second benefit to the person.
Absolutely. And there's not, in this area besides the Rose, there's not a hotel around.
Right, there's no full service. hotels
Right.
still.
And it was going to be just like the one on Johnson Drive is. It's kind of a longer, it's a
Extended stay.
extended stay on one side and just a regular hotel on the other. So you can either get the suites or a regular room.
On the,
Out of the mall, outlet mall. Same operating.
Yes.
on the OTB, property, is that something you guys are managing, or is that something that you lease to someone else
We
to
manage
run?
it.
You're running that?
We run that.
So if you make money or lose money on the betting, that's yours?
Yes,
Okay.
that is ours. So the racing industry is very interesting. Because Bob says, yep, that's a good way to put it. There's a pie of money, right? And so there are so many entities that get a piece of the pie. So an example, during live racing at the fair, we get about 6% on every dollar. So we get about 6 cents on every dollar bet at the track. The rest of the year, that's generated through the off-track betting facility, we get about 2%. So it's been on the decline for many years, but it's still important for us because it's still an important piece of our history and who we are, but it also helps us to generate revenue. It's not gone yet. And it's obviously changed because now you can, I mean, anybody who likes to bet, you can bet from your phone. Like my
Right.
sons bet every Friday from their phone. I'm like, come on, guys. The family group text is blowing up with who's getting bet on or where they're betting on that week. Any other questions? Okay, so the fair. So we are getting ready to start the fair, and I think we're like 40, could be less, 38 days away from fair right now. Our fair this summer is all about the summer vibes. I'm in love with this cotton candy picture because I think that speaks everything fair. If you want to go to the next slide, we can talk about some of the things that will happen at fair this year. This year we'll bring back our nightly drone show. Did anybody see that drone show last year? Thank you, Bob. Did you see it?
There's a sponsor.
Yes.
Over there.
You saw it, Brian?
It's great.
It was, and then, so this year, last year our drone show had about 100 drones. This year, we increased that to have 200 drones. And then we're having 2 fireworks shows this year. We had so we'll have one on June 30th, so the weekend kicking off 4th of July. And then we will have a fireworks show on opening night. And if, Brian, you attended that fireworks show last year and you remember that it took a little bit of time to kick off, that is why they are making good for us and having a second fireworks show this year. So we're super excited about that's just one of the ways that we say we're here, we're in town, but we feel like the drones are much better for the environment, but also give our community something that is a little bit more high tech. And it's good for the animals. All the neighbors like it a lot better than the fireworks show. Last year in racing, we had nearly 60,000 guests visit the track. That was up for us about 21%. So for a long time, we were hovering around 40% of fair attendance. So for us, 40,000 guests of our total fair attendance. So last year, that was a big jump for us. It was awesome, and we hope to keep that increase this year. Last year, we had I think 12 days of racing, and this year we'll have 13. So we'll have an additional day. When the track is not activated with racing, we try to bring in other events. So last year we brought in jousting in the evening, which is kind of like medieval times-ish, super fun, kids love it. And then when there's no racing happening, because racing happens Friday through Sunday and on July 4th, then we do, when there's no racing happening, we do the jousting during the day as well. Some of the new events or the new entertainers that we brought in last year were dueling pianos. This year we will also have like a strolling piano and a strolling DJ. We are bringing in freestyle motocross again. The kids and the crowds just love that. We worked on a new layout for our carnival, which really kind of connected our fair in a new way. And that's some of that innovation that Jerome has. He sees like where things can connect and we can fill spaces that don't get as busy. And so with the FMX, we're also doing a silent disco this year. So we'll have that nightly in our, not in the wine garden, but in the professional gardens on the other side. Our team has just worked really hard.
What's the silent disco?
Oh, you wear,
The headphone.
No
there's
kidding.
3 or 4 different songs going on, so you don't know what beat you're doing, and everybody's doing it, you can't hear anything but your own music, but everybody's kind of doing something.
Dancing and yeah.
Oh, it's a lot of, they have
But
a
you could be dancing to one kind of music,
Yes.
so all kind of weird gyrations are going on, and you go, what are you listening to? And I got, I've never heard that before, that's
We'll bring
crazy.
in a DJ, like I think we're gonna have a DJ a couple of nights with that. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna have Nations hot dog.
Like, you gotta post that on a Zoom thing, you go watch.
For
you go, you
sure.
can pay to
Oh,
watch,
yeah.
right? I wanna see it.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have Nathan's Hot Dogs is doing a prelim again this year for the Coney Island event. So that's pretty exciting for us. Go on to the next slide. So Bob is joining the Fair Foundation.
And Bob,
And so the Fair Foundation is another 501c3 that is part of the Alameda County Fair. They are separate from our fair board, but their sole goal is to raise revenue for projects on property. So the big project that they've identified, they've been working on to raise funds for is an educational farm, which is so exciting. I mean, I'm super excited about that for the future because one, we're teaching kids about agriculture, where their food comes from. We'll be able to do tours throughout the school year, so it won't just be open to fair. We'll be able to bring in kids from all over the county. And it's a really, I think the vision for it being a high-tech urban farm really is a hands-on experience, not just for kids, but for the community. So they might be able to come in and they might be able to go, okay, these are all the things that make a pizza. And then eventually we'll have a test kitchen. They'll get to the point where they can make the pizza and have it there at the farm as part of their field trip. We will also have an area, a birthing center for animals. And so we're super excited about that.
What's the timeline on that?
So it all
as soon as
depends.
we raise the money.
Yes.
You guys have been working on it for a while.
So the foundation has been working on fun ways to raise money. I think you've now gotten to the point where you have a business plan
Yep.
and you're ready to go out and just.
Drawings are ready, I think right now we're looking out for sponsors and to represent the rest of the dollars.
Bill write a check.
So Bill, you're on the foundation board.
Yes, I am, I once was able to do it, not any longer. That's just a pandemic. But we're looking for sponsorships that are, are in the business, like companies like TopCon or feed companies, those kind of companies that we represented there. And it's basically the biggest part of the piece will be able to bring school-aged children onto the property and show them where their food comes from and how food's made and what happens, and get them involved in the industries and the businesses also, the possible careers and those types of things and trades.
Yeah,
It's really, really exciting.
Is there any government money you guys are going? Or is it all?
Soon to be
corporate
some grants
sponsorship?
when that happens. They've already been funded. The biggest piece is that really the Jerome and the foundation have donated the land to the foundation, which is invaluable for the piece of it. It's gonna happen, a lot of this around where the pig races are. We got with that area and the build outs there. But it's an exciting opportunity.
How much land are you talking, Bill?
I think it's 2 acres.
Two acres.
Two full acres.
I have a.
No, we're
an
funded
image
to
of
about
it.
$600,000 now, which is a small piece of it, but that's the current fundraising dollars that we have set aside. There's more to come.
I thought you were taking out your wallet.
Yeah.
It's like, you're taking out your wallet.
Rented on there. This would be something to go poke Amos about, because I know that the culinary arts group in CTE classes are looking at doing some things that are more in this vein, and so that may be something to partner with those
Absolutely.
programs with about. And I know Amos sits pretty close to you, James. Maybe throw a banana over it.
And so Valerie Shirk is our executive director, and she has been an incredible asset to the team in getting us to move forward, to build out. Now we know, now we're at the stage where they can go and do the asks and show what
Bob,
everything
you
is
look for the
going
date
to
of
look
the
like.
foundation or the garden party we're having.
It's on June 25th, Sunday, June 25th.
So like more information, like join us, we'd love to have you, all you invited.
Yeah, it'll be a great event, and it's in
Wonderful
the
event.
professional garden area. That is where the silent disco is. So if you just happen to go there, you may be able to participate in the silent disco. One of the projects that we're always working on at fair time is we do a fair survey every year. That fair survey tells us so much about what our guests like, what they want. The number one reason they come to the fair is always food. I'm like, they speak my love language. But guest experience, like when we take projects that we get from that survey, and some of them are really simple, like bike racks. And so one of the big projects we did last year is we did bike racks at every gate. Traditionally, you could only come in on Pleasanton Avenue and drop your bike. And so families that lived maybe off a valley on the other side, they would have to drive their bikes all the way around to Pleasanton Ave and then, leave their bikes there. One year I looked out of my office window and there was bikes across the grass on Pleasanton Avenue, chained to trees. It was wild. And so now we have bike racks everywhere, and that was just a project that we worked on for fair, and they're utilized at every entrance now. This is a part of our survey, just to give you an example. So in 2022, we had about 418,000 guests at the fair. We parked 109,000 vehicles during the annual fair last year, and our horse racing attendance was just under 60, so it was, I'm gonna call it 60,000. Our class, so we sold last year 61,000 corn dogs, which I don't think is that many for 400,000 people.
I had 10 of them.
And one, I at least had
We
5.
go there at lunch. Bob gives me a special pass. I can slide in the back door.
Of course you do.
We go in there at lunchtime and get dogs like almost every day at the fair. And there's 2 or 3 different vendors, and you can actually, and each one of them has a different little kind of mix on their corn dog, right?
Yes, there's definitely more
yeah.
than one vendor, and I like, the white and red, like
I'm
the
the same
very
thing with the
small.
2 young guys that they're working for their dad, and
Yes.
they basically just run around and just do this like 3 months out of the year, and then they retire the rest of the year. They don't really do much else. Yeah,
I
they're
love those
nice guys. Me too. Those are my favorite too.
I love those
Sweetness to them.
We sold barbecue turkey legs, 13,000 of those. Cotton candy, 13,000 cotton candy. And funnel cakes, probably 25,000. I think you guys everyone in this room needs to have a funnel cake. So at the fair, we do the largest summer food drive, and we partner with the Alameda County Community Food Bank. We partner with them because they distribute the food out to the entire county. So they tell us that there's a huge need in the summer, particularly for students and seniors. And so they say they distribute that within like 5 days of fair. That 20,000 last year is gone. So we range anywhere from 20,000 to about 35,000 pounds of food during that 1-day event. We also work with Valley Humane Society, and they distribute food out as well, but we also do a pet food drive. Because who doesn't love animals? And so they collect everything from cat and dog food to toys to rabbit food, and then they just distribute it out where there's a need. And last year we were able to connect about 35,000. We have 728 volunteers last year who helped us put on the fair. So nonprofit organizations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, they can volunteer at the fair and we make a donation back to their organization. So. In our survey, which was exciting last year, our guests told us that we scored at an 8.62 in terms of overall fair enjoyment. That was something that we're really proud of because we normally are still great, but about an 8.35. And so we jumped up dramatically last year, and that was actually the highest that we've ever scored from our fair guests and their overall enjoyment of the event.
How does that compare to other fairs?
So the mean is 8.28 for all the other events that our survey company surveys, and we were at an 8.6. So we're higher than average. I'm really competitive though, so I'm like, how do we get to 9.2? We're better than this. One of the things that I love talking about is our where we are going in the future. So when Jerome came on board as our CEO in 2013, he used his first year in working with the board to update and work with a consulting company for a vision plan for the future. And so lots came out of the vision plan. We changed the way that we park vehicles. Some of that is getting vehicles off of Valley Avenue during fair so that we're not causing backups on the freeway. So we've implemented a lot of things throughout his time on property. So if we want to go to the next slide, we talked a lot about the RV park. So, and this is just a sketch, and without really understanding the layout and the location, we are adding into our main RV park 37 new RV spots. So that construction is actually starting within this month. It obviously won't be done by fair, but we are going to put in new limestone pads. We're just creating a new section from scratch. So we had a lot to do to prepare because, like I said, we use and rent out space. So we had an RV store on property that sold supplies and propane. Well, so we have to put them on notice. We had a company who stores with us, like stores their equipment, and they kind of operate out of our business park. We have a little business park. We had to move them to a new facility. We had our RV show promoter had an area where when he has a dealership. And so if somebody bought something at his dealership and they lived in this region, they would come here and they would learn how to use their RV. So we had a lot of things that we had to move out and actually just shut down that area last Friday. So this project will probably start within the next month. So the RV park is about to get bigger. Port of Four Seasons. So this is an area, I mean, you've been on grounds, you know that it's dated property, and we do our best to paint things and dress them up as much as we can. So in the Court of Four Seasons is located across from the grandstand. There used to be a stage in the area, and now it's the entryway to our professional landscape gardens. So just on the other side for those that like the wine garden, like through the building and around the other side. So there's more built there. We put seating in that area. And so we're working on a project where we reface the buildings and create these greenscapes for all of those 4 buildings and all on either side, so on the interior and the exterior of the buildings. So you will see that we are, and these are just drawings, but this is approved and moving forward. So we will start this project right after the Scottish Games in September, and it has to be complete before the November Good Guys. So when we're doing these projects, we have to look at windows when the property is available and that we're not already hosting events. So it becomes this fun dance between teams. So we're going to be creating this seating wall around every building in the Court of Four Seasons to create more seating for guests, because that's something we always hear is we need to have more seating. We're gonna be putting in these structures, and they might not look exactly like this, and then doing landscaping around each of those 4 buildings. Okay, I'm gonna let you drive again, James. So this is just an example of where that upgrade will be happening. So, and each of those areas will be updated with this new look and feel. And this is the center of the courtyard. So this is, there'll be this wall here where people will be able to sit around the buildings. And then this, and it's not this color, the color will be different. These will be a shade structure around around that space. So we always hear that, people want shade as well. And then we're gonna do a fountain in the center, and you will be able to sit on the edge of the fountain. And this isn't the perfect example of what it's gonna look like. These are just the original renderings. On the other side at the fair, does anybody know where the mechanical bull has been? Look at everybody knows where the mechanical bull has been. So we're also doing more shade structure on that side, more seating space around the buildings, doing more landscaping, creating a new frontage to another building in that space. But we were looking at doing a splash pad, and that's been in our plan all along. We're gonna do this really cool splash pad, so during fair, families, kids can walk around, we have this water feature. Well, since we started this project, the splash pad has gone up significantly, and we can no longer afford the splash pad. I mean, the splash pad is well over $1 million. Yeah.
Wow.
And so we just found out last week that the splash pad is not going to happen. But we are going to, invest that money in more of the fountain and doing more shade structures with misting throughout the fair. So we'll just reallocate those funds to still create a great experience for the fair. And this is just an example, some renderings of what the middle of that, how I said we were creating this seating against the buildings, and then the fountain will not look like this. We were just talking a couple of days ago about what our fountain is actually going to look like, but these are just some renderings of what we see happening in that space, and just really giving us a facelift at the property. So we're really excited about it. Our teams are excited about it.
So this cover right here is meant to extract here.
Yes,
So
yes.
how easy is that to put down, or is it permanent?
It will be there on a year-round basis. And it will not be, again, Amador colors. I mean, I love Amador, my kids went to Amador, but it will not be Amador colors. And this just is more some examples of the materials that will be used. It's gonna be more this color here, James. And so the piece that is very exciting for us and something that we're really working towards, but we need funding for it. And so we're working on funding mechanisms for this is our building B. So building B is the building that is shaped like this. It is, excuse me?
Quonset hut.
Yes.
Was.
Bob remembers those.
I'm like, was. So that building for us is, needs to be updated very badly. It needs, and we really are looking at ways to tie the building that's closest to Burnell and that building together. So our CEO has been working on this for a while, and Jerome's passion is building. He likes to show up, build things. He has a great eye for detail. It's just something he loves. So we've been working with Dahlin Group on some renderings, and this is the latest rendering that we have. So the idea is that building B, which is currently about 14,000 square feet, will actually match the size of building A, which is about 30,000 square feet. Building B might be a little bit smaller. And then creating in that walkway in the middle that we currently have a breezeway, a covered breezeway. And so that will help us, and then there'll be gates on the sides of that breezeway. But that will help us do is, if you want to have a large trade show or an event in here, if you're a very large company and you said, okay, I want to do training sessions all day long and I need a building for that. And then I maybe want to do happy hour in your breezeway. And then I want to do a large dinner in your other building for, 1,500 people. That gives us the flexibility to be able to do that, but it also gives us the flexibility to do larger consumer shows at the same time and be able to block them off from one another. We also feel like it gives the property a huge upgrade and an upgrade for the community. So if you want to go to the next slide. This is just an overhead of how we're trying to shore up the buildings. So they are much closer in size, and then you can see, so it'll be close to 100,000 feet of space. So you'll have about 32,000 here. Just, I think that second building I cannot see because my eyes are terrible. Is 20, is that 30,000? 20,000. So that second building, the new building B will be 30,000. And then that breezeway in the middle is, I think, an additional 16. That's right. I think it's an additional 16. So that is actually a project that we are working on. We are working very closely right now with the Office of Emergency Services, particularly the Sheriff's Department, because there is some grant money out there that we are trying to secure that would help us as a emergency facility that would help us upgrade that building and that space. Are we almost done?
We're at 1 hour right
Do we
now.
know how big is the Moscone Center in San Francisco?
How big that facility is?
Sean?
That's a good question. Bye, Sean. Sorry I went over.
That's okay, no problem.
And I'm like, I only have 20 minutes. And then this is an example of what the breezeway could look like. And then here is an image of the 2 acres of the farm and kind of the crop areas. This would be the barn area. So we go into our current barn area where we used to house the horses, classrooms, test kitchen, more garden and eating space. We would also utilize this as event space, like nice space for weddings, nice place for private parties. So that's also part of what we're doing in the future. So the amphitheater was a project that was also on the table pre-pandemic, completely tearing down our current amphitheater because it is extremely dated. Our backup house was built probably in the late 60s, early 70s, and you can tell that when you go back there. And expanding it to be, we're at about 3,000 capacity now, so us getting to maybe 5,000 to 6,000 capacity, we're really filling a gap, really in alignment with like the mountain wineries. We would be a venue of that size. So we had a partner we were moving down the path, right, 2019, 2020. We're starting to bring those conversations back to the table. We really need a partner to work with us on that. We're not in the concert business. We don't buy concerts. We are a great venue. We have great facilities, and it would be more of a partnership, not a land lease, but kind of they would book the entertainment. We have the food, we have the parking, we have the venue. And so that's what we're looking to do in the future. We're just not there yet, but those conversations are starting to circle back with us.
Yeah, Angel, I heard that that Jerome was planning on, big names,
Yeah.
right? Big concerts.
Big
Oh,
concerts.
I hope that happens. So
Yeah,
excited.
it would be really,
Yeah.
for us, it would be incredible. We think a great thing for this region because we just don't have anything in this region. And then these are just some of our great community partners that we work with. We will continue to work with, obviously the Chamber, the Downtown Association, the city, the Board of Education, and then Cal OES, which is the Office of Emergency Services.
The Tri-Valley too.
Visit Tri-Valley is a great partner of ours. I mean, they bring, so Visit, actually, that's a great one, Bob. And I don't know how we left them off, but they They work really hard to bring so many events to our venue, and we're talking events that stay days. So they brought us robo games. They brought us Showstoppers, which is a dance competition. They bring us like USA weightlifting. They're working on, so their thing is big sports, because with those kids,
Scottish.
yeah, they worked with it. They actually helped us save the Scottish Games. So the Scottish Games post-pandemic, or when they came back, they were looking to move to another venue. And Visit Tri-Valley, we went to them, we're like, can you do anything to help us keep them? Because this is not just a win for the fairgrounds, this is a win for the communities. I mean, they booked thousands of room nights during their time here. And so they actually sponsored them and found a hotel. They were staying in San Ramon, which is out of Visit Tri-Valley purview. And they got them to book at the DoubleTree. And they actually offset some of their expenses with us so that they would stay in the community, and the Scottish team stayed here. And I would say because of Visit Tri-Valley. Yeah, Todd and Tracy both worked really hard with us. And when they bring in these sporting events, I'm talking like 3 nights. I mean, these families are coming in for the long haul. So thank you for that. And I'm adding them.
Thank you, Angel.
Bye,
Bye,
Jenny.
everybody.
Great job, Angel.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I know.
Great.
I'm sorry, Lori.
No, thanks everybody for hanging in there for a few extra minutes.
Yeah.
Exciting. I know I hear about the farm all the time from Doug Dolan. He's so excited about the farm. We hear about it all the time. So thank you for sharing your lunch hour with us, and hopefully we'll see everybody later today.
Thanks, Lori.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks,
so
Lauren.
much.
Just so everybody knows, next month or 2 months from now, because this is every other month.
Oh, yes.
Already confirmed Andres, Roma from the Stonebridge Mall.
Oh,
We'll be
cool.
coming in, providing an update on everything.
Very nice. Nice work.
Hopefully,
Thank
Coming
Angel.
for that. Thank
Nice
you.
work,
Thanks,
team.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody. It was so good to see you. Bob, I'll see you soon.